Hello, my name is Rob, and today I am looking at changes to the Conservation Authority and the City of Kingston agenda. And there was some items on the City of Kingston agenda that relate to conservation authorities, which I will be looking at. The first item, I'm going to see if I can increase this size of the font, is changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. This is an information report, and there was an executive summary which says on October 31st, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks announced the government's intention to amend the Conservation Authorities Act to create a new provincial conservation authority. And that was passed on November 27th, Bill 68, and it was called the Plan to Protect Ontario Act Budget Measures 2025. And they were consulting on the proposed boundaries through the environmental registry. And I don't believe that they consulted on the changes itself. The going to a different format of conservation authorities. But they appear to be consulting on the boundaries. And the Conservation Authority will be changed in Kingston, along with 4 other conservation authorities, specifically to the St. Lawrence Regional Conservation Authorities. There was 36, and now there's only going to be 6 conservation authorities. And there's going to be 46 municipalities in the new St. Lawrence Regional Conservation. This is problematic. The province has indicated that there will be no changes to provincially mandated programs and services, including drinking source protection under the Clean Water Act, but there's no additional funding. The Catawaqui Regional Conservation would be amalgamated and would include the Catawaqui Region, Rideau Valley, Mississippi Valley, South Nation River, and Raisin Region Conservation Authorities. And these conservation authorities are cover a lot more area, so those problems in getting to the Conservation Authority meetings as a delegation or even as a board member, they cover a lot more area. So those problems with democratic representation, as well as taking away the voice of the municipality. And it was established in 1964 Conservation Authorities Act, and the Catawaqui Region Conservation Authority was created at the request of member municipalities. And the Catawaqui Region Conservation Authority is community-based environmental protection and advocacy agency. And it is currently 3,800 square kilometers. And there's already 11 watersheds in the jurisdiction. And that's just one conservation authority. Imagine combining several conservation authorities into one. That's a lot of area. And let me see. So at 100 kilometers an hour, and you can't go 100 kilometers an hour everywhere, it would take 38 hours to travel all that area if there was a straight line. Now I know that that's not going to happen. That's not realistic, but that's the size of the area currently. And there was no extra funding. There was currently 17 board members appointed by 11 municipalities. And this is I should say that this is a part of the agenda of the City of Kingston. And they will meet on Tuesday the 16th. And let's see. Information on how board members will be appointed for the regional conservation has not been released, and significant changes are anticipated because it will not be practical to have representation from each municipality on the board due to the number of municipalities. And I read that the current methodology would result in a board of 70 municipal representatives. And I did some quick table math. 70, a board of 70 would result in 5.8 hours per item at 5 minutes each. That is without any delegations or questions. If questions are allowed, that's an additional 5 hours for one item. I am on other boards, and I don't know any meeting that has gone 5.5 hours outside of strategic planning. But that was more than one item. And people will want to speak, and that means that everyone will have at least 5 minutes. So that is an issue. So there was a heading called "What does this mean for Kingston and the CRCA?" There was potential risks for eroding local authority, weakening watershed-specific expertise, financial consideration, and undermining environmental protections in local communities, and this is discussed below. Even though the government is framing it as a move towards efficiency and consistency, there are all a lot of risks. So I talked about the governance issues. There is responsiveness. Currently, the Conservation Authority is a small watershed area, and it operates within the City of Kingston, or Catawaqua. The future structure will not be as nimble and responsive to local issues, development approvals, or conservation area management. That's an issue that runs counter to the government's claim of wanting to build more housing, or respond to flood risks. And then the standardization of approvals. The report is saying a standardized approach may not take into consideration more localized watershed conditions and may represent a change in practice and process than what the city has become familiar with. And then there's funding. It's unclear how levies would be accounted for, what the budget structure will be, and how the services would be funded by the related municipalities. And it's too early to say if the changes will weaken local watershed-specific knowledge, reduce municipal interference over land and water decisions, and create a more decentralized bureaucracy. There is public engagement until December 22nd. And the Catawaqua Regional Conservation Authority will be submitting comments on the proposed consolidation. It is also a problem that the legislation has passed before prior to comments received from the public. Climate risk considerations. Conservation authorities play a key role in assessing and managing climate-related risk, particularly those linked to natural hazards such as flooding and erosion. And then those financial considerations. And then it's saying 63% of the levy is paid by the City of Kingston, and the remaining levy is shared amongst 10 other member municipalities based on their assessment values. And then staff is going to report back, and then there's a presentation from the Ministry of Environment. So that's one item, and I'll go to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and they were looking at. They were saying that that the government is not providing any new ongoing provincial funding to run conservation authorities effectively, while also creating a new provincial oversight agency and weakening local municipal leaders' control over conservation and enforcement protections. And the Association of Municipalities of Ontario is going to comment on the registry this December, so this month. There's not a lot of time. So probably, hopefully on Monday, they release something. And then the item is proposed boundaries for the regional consolidation of Ontario's conservation authorities. And this has a number 025-1257. And you can comment on this until December 22nd, 2025. And I hope that you do. There's a lot of information in this that is problematic. And there are other organizations that are going to make comments on this as well. And then I found something from the Upper Thames River. And then the Upper Thames River will be part of the Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority, which would include 81 municipalities. And that is unmanageable, in my opinion. And what did I have here? Oh, I looked at the conservation authorities Schedule 3 of what was it? Schedule 3 of Bill 68, which is an act to implement budget memos and to enact and amend various statutes. And they are changing the Conservation Authorities Act. This legislation has passed, and they want to oversee the transition to a regional watershed-based framework for authorities in Ontario. That's what I highlighted on this. And so I'm doubtful that the government is going to listen to the public on this, unless we make ourselves loud and clear. We want strong conservation authorities. I'm just going to look at the time. So 17 minutes. Yeah, so in conclusion, the government of Ontario is wanting to consolidate conservation authorities and to 6 from 36, and this is problematic because it would undermine local decision making. It would undermine the environmental planning, watershed protection. It's unreasonable to have excessively large conservation authorities. They are unmanageable. They might be unmanageable because of the number of people on the board, or because of the extreme distances to travel for anyone making delegations, or the board members themselves. It's unreasonable. The offices would have to be in one spot as well. Let's see here. Oh, I do have another item. There was a second item on the agenda that I wanted to highlight. It is new motion. This is an item that people can comment on at the city. I'm just getting it ready. Why is it? Seems to be giving me a difficult time. Oh, it's just because I... So transition. So the second item I wanted to highlight is still related to conservation authorities. Let's see, new motion. Oh, I have. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to find what page the new motion is on. New motions. And there was support for Catawalkway conservation authorities, and then there was a bunch of whereas statements. Whereas the province of Ontario has recently announced its intention to amalgamate several conservation authorities across the province, and whereas the Catawalkway Conservation Authority plays a vital and long-standing role in protecting watersheds, wetlands, shorelines, natural habitats, and biodiversity across the whole region, and whereas the CCA provides essential programs and services including flood forecasting and warning, drinking water source protection, environmental education, land stewardship, and the management of conservation areas that are highly valued by residents. And those two more whereas statements. Those be it resolved that the City of Kingston affirms a strong support for the continued independence of the Catawalkway Conservation, and that Council urged the Province of Ontario to maintain the CCA as an independent conservation authority, recognizing its essential role in environmental protection, public safety, and community well-being, and that a copy be shared with members of the government, and that the copy be shared with the CCA and all municipalities within the Catawalkway watershed region to encourage similar expressions of support. So that one, new motion 4, a delegation can be discussed. I'm not sure about the other motion, the other item that can be, there's rules around who can make delegations at the City of Kingston meeting. But I know that new motions, there can be a delegation. That is everything that I have prepared for today, and I thank you for listening.